tools. This is an introduction to your workstation, to your computer. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to restart Photoshop with all the defaults installed so that all the tools will work very predictably. So Photoshop is open, and you'll notice there's certain tools, they look a certain way, there's certain layouts of windows, certain settings up at the top here. All of those really matter. And since we don't know what they all mean yet, we want to start with a blank slate. So we're going to quit Photoshop. And then we're going to go down to our dock. And your dock's a little bit simpler than mine. It should stay that way. And once you see the little black dot disappear from underneath the PS icon, it means it's quit and it's closed. I want you to hold down Command, Option, Shift, and Tab. This is the most complicated key combination we'll use in this class. So all 4 keys. With your thumb, hold down the Command key. It's right next to the space bar. With your pointer finger, hold down Option. With your middle finger, hold down Shift. And with your ring finger, hold down Tab. Say that again. So with your thumb, hold down Command. Keep it held. With your pointer finger, hold down Option, which is right next to Command. With your middle finger, hold down Shift. And with your ring finger, hold down Tab. Now, I hope this is correct, because I only have to do this once a semester. Now click, with all those 4 pressed down, click on Photoshop. And this will come up. Okay? So it will open Photoshop, but it will ask you, do we want to delete the Adobe Photoshop settings file? And we want to say yes. Yes, Command, Control, Shift, and Tab, all held down together. Extremely helpful. Well, you'll probably never need to. But if your Photoshop gets messed up, it's how we set it up. Well, the reason I don't have you go into settings and erase is because I don't want, there's a mistake there that can happen where you can lose a lot of bad stuff. Yeah, the accessing application files, how to clear something, that can go wrong. This is a safe way to do it, no matter what the computer is. Yep, so first you want to quit. The way you can quit it is you can right click.
And you want to say yes? You want to say yes to this?
Yes, so now you do this. Command, Option, Shift, Tab. And then while they're all held down, go ahead and click on the yes. Now you can say yes.
I had the little, when I tried the first time, it wasn't completely out.
Right. So everyone's Photoshop should feel very streamlined. All right, go ahead and say yes, and it will open Photoshop in its default. It will look very much like this, where you have swatches here. You have layers here. And if you don't, it's not the worst thing in the world. About the swatches, or yeah. So if you had it set up, that will be the default way it displays. So what you can do is you can bring those down if you want. Weird, but that's okay, because those are not. This is what clearing the settings file does. It's not necessarily about how everything looks. It's about how everything is set, like what all the tools are made to do. So these are what are called windows. And I probably shouldn't be walking away from the computer while I'm recording, but okay. These are called windows. And these can always be opened and closed depending on what you need. I tend to like to have layers open, and that's the only thing I need you to always have open. And if you don't have layers, you go to Window, and you want to have a check mark next to Layers. That's it. But all these windows are easy to find. The reason we restarted Photoshop with those settings deleted is so that we can make sure we know what all the tools are doing. Now, that said, there are two things we do to change the default for our lab. The first is you hit Command R. So make sure you're in Photoshop and then hit Command R. And that should turn on our rulers. Why is it not? Let's see. No, it should just be Command R. Let me see what's going on.
You need to have
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So what we're going to do is we always want rulers to be active, and that makes sense. It won't turn on rulers until we have something open. And then the other thing we want to do is we want to have around 500 history states. Okay? So let's do the history states first because you don't need something open for that. You're going to say, go to Photoshop, go to Preferences, and go to Performance. So Photoshop takes up a lot of memory. And we're not going to mess with its default memory use. But we are going to up the history states that it remembers. This is the number of keystrokes that you've done that it will hold in its internal memory. So we want to change that from 50 to 500. If you do more than 500, you're really getting your computer to slow down. But to me, you need between 200 and 500 steps if you're going to do digital painting, because you make a lot of progress very quickly. So that's the one setting we'll always change from the defaults. Now let's go to File, Open. Did not like that. All right. So we're going to say File, New File. So File, New. And then we're going to program in a default, okay, for this class. So we're going to title this Digital Art. Uh-oh. It's not good to have a crash so early in the semester. Okay, Digital Art FA, capital FA, no space, 17. So fall 17. You go to File and then New once you're in Photoshop. Yep, and I can help you get there. So let me give these parameters and I'll pause it. I'll come around and make sure everyone's with me. So our default is going to be 14 inches wide. So for width, you're going to put in 14, and you want it to be measured in inches. These should all be the defaults. The height should be 11 inches.
So we're going to use all of these.
This is the default that we're going to start with all the time. And the resolution is going to be our standard lab resolution, which is 50 higher than professional resolution, which is 350. Okay? Everything else leave the same. We want to work in RGB. We'll learn more about what that means. We want to work in 8-bit. We want the background to be white. We want this print gamma. And then we just say save. Don't say OK. Say save preset. You'll notice that this will be about 50 megabytes large. And then save all of those aspects. So now, when we open a new file, we'll be able to simply go to the 14 by 11 inch when we need to. And that might be the only one you have. All right. So this is an 11 by 14 by 350 pixel grid with a white background. We're going to do our project on this, but we might not want it to be horizontal. Right? We might want it to be 11 inches wide and 14 inches tall. So the way we do that is we simply go to Image and Image Rotation, and we're going to rotate it 90 degrees, either clockwise or counterclockwise. And you'll see here it's about 54 megabytes large. That means it's large enough resolution to print. If we look at its pixel dimensions, you don't have to do this, but I'll share them with you. It is 3,850 pixels by close to 5,000 pixels. So this is about the minimum size that we'll print in this class. And that's why it's our default. We can make things bigger than this, but we don't want to make things smaller than this. All right. So now we have set up Photoshop. I'm going to come around, I'll pause this and make sure everyone has this. The basic shortcuts we're going to use a lot are how to navigate our canvas, right? So to do shortcuts, you use the Command key. And the first one we're going to do is Command plus sign. And go ahead and make sure you're on Photoshop. And Command plus will zoom you in, but it doesn't look like a whole lot. Command minus will zoom you out. Okay, that's going to be very useful. You'll see why. And right next to the minus is a 0. Command 0 will make it fill your window. No matter how zoomed in you are, if you hit Command 0, it will fill the window. Yeah, we'll just make it full screen. 0. So they're all bunched right there next to the delete key. I don't know what Command delete does. Let's not find out. But Command plus, Command minus, Command 0. Basic. We're going to practice it so much, you'll learn it. The next thing, very important, is how do we, when we're zoomed in, how do we move around? So go ahead and zoom in quite a bit. So you see all white. Now I want to move around. Well, I have the navigator open here. To zoom in is Command plus. Command 0 fills the screen. But to zoom in beyond having it fill the screen, Command plus. So these are good. These are good questions. Okay, here's the thing though. Let's say I have a really intricate painting here. I've zoomed in. I don't want to have to zoom out and then zoom in again to get to another part of the painting. I just want to move around. So I have the navigator open so you can see this. So if you hold down spacebar, not Command but spacebar, it will turn your cursor into the hand tool. And the hand tool is very simple. You can just click and drag. And if you look at my navigator, you see I'll be going around this space until I get to the edge. This does not change anything in the image. It just helps me get around. Okay? It's just spacebar. Hold down spacebar with whatever tool and then click and drag while the spacebar is held down. And you can move it around. And let's all do this. Let's turn Photoshop into a game of Pong. We can make it really small. But what you'll notice is I can't move it around if I'm zoomed out, right? Because what's outside of the canvas is nothing. Does that make sense? Because people get confused by that. And sometimes they'll drag images into nothing and expect something to happen. No, it has to go on the canvas. All right, so go ahead and hit Command 0. We have a nice blank canvas, always very intimidating. What do we need now? We need inspiration, okay? So we can get inspiration from professionals like Arturo Herrera. We can get inspiration from past student examples from the photo bucket page. But ultimately, we want to get inspiration from our own interest and our own experiences. So if I go to the library and I do the drop down under Digital Art 1, we're going to look at the exercises. I'm going to open up exercises, and this is exercise 1. It's what I call the cartoon jumble. And I'm going to look at past student examples. And this is what our first exercise is. All right, so we go to library.
Okay. We're going to have to go out. We're going to have to go out of Photoshop, though, right?
Yeah, this is in Chrome.
We have to go back to Chrome.
And that's why we minimized it so we can go back.
Okay. We minimize Photoshop.
No, we minimized Chrome. And so all you have to do to get back to it is you'll see it in your dock next to your trash can. So this website, we had it open from before from our links page. And it's PhotoBucket. So let me show you, and it will be recorded and you can practice it. But I'll show you here. So if we go to digital exercises and we go to exercise 1, cartoon jumble, This is how you can see that past student work.